Okay. As far as schedule is concerned, we have got naturally that is the focus of our training here, and although we have defined other processes as if we can establish a relationship with how the scheduling is happening. So you understand those were the prerequisites. We had to have uh, the scope established before we could develop a schedule, right? That's why we studied the schedule. Now, here, as far as the schedule is concerned, we have got, as per the PMBOK guide, we have got six processes. And interestingly, out of the six processes, first five processes are in planning. And the last process is during the monitoring and control. If you remember, I did talk about the various process groups. So,
Yes.
monitoring and control is where we establish whether how well our schedule is being implemented. Rest of the five processes, they all happened during the planning. And during the planning, the pattern is almost similar. The very first thing we do in planning is to plan the schedule management, meaning we establish a schedule management plan. Just like we had a scope management plan. In scope, when we were studying scope, what what were the management plans we created? There was one other one. In addition to the scope, what was the
Requirement management plan.
requirement management plan? Very good. And remember, that is the only knowledge area, scope is the only knowledge area which is having two management plans in it. Although we call it scope, but it had first established a requirement management plan and then a scope management plan. Remaining all of the knowledge areas will start with their respective management plan. It will always be one. So schedule has the schedule management plan. As you remember, the very first process knowledge of any knowledge area would be doing that planning, establishing the management plan. And if you remember, I said that these management plans are not the detailed plans, but they are the guidelines for developing the detailed plan. So just when we start the planning, we establish the management plan in the very first process, and the remaining processes here from 6.2 to 6.5, they all are subsequent planning processes which follow the rules established in the first process. So, based on the schedule management plan you have developed, you will define the activities, you will sequence the activities, you will estimate the duration for each one of those activities, and ultimately you will develop a schedule. Now, it looks like very simple, but it is a very detailed calculation. There are a lot many things we have to understand while we are talking about schedule planning. But develop schedule is the last step where the schedule stands completed. Or what do you call it? Baseline. You remember we did establish a baseline for scope,
Scope.
and now we are going
Cost.
to establish a baseline for schedule. And what is going to be the third baseline?
Cost, please.
Cost. So cost baseline will come later, but these three areas are important to us: scope, time, and cost, because we have to baseline them, all three of them. There is no other baseline. But the most interesting part about schedule is that this is the most sensitive baseline. All other baselines, once they are developed, they are baseline. But scheduling baseline cannot be developed until multiple iterations of planning has gone over them.
Mhm.
It takes time to stabilize a schedule
Mhm.
and be confident about that we can execute it. So
Mhm.
once the team is satisfied, they develop the schedule. It is not to be finalized after the first planning cycle. We
Mhm.
review it and review it and review it for many times
Mhm.
before establishing the final baseline. And final baseline will only be the one where the approval of the higher authorities or the sponsors is sought. Remember, once a schedule is frozen in time, is
Mhm.
baseline, then project team has absolutely no authority to make any changes to it. But before that, they might have gone through hundreds of revisions while we were trying to establish the schedule. Now that the schedule has been developed, it has been baseline, so we are done with the planning part. Then we go to execution. The next process group is execution. But as I explained to you earlier, if you remember that, why is there no process in scheduling which happens in execution? Why we
Uh,
are directly jumping over to control?
oh, because the work is gonna be done, and then I think it was one of the processes about the work. So we kind of measure the baseline against the work that is being done in
That is
the
agreed. That is the
yeah.
purpose of schedule. But I probably asked this question earlier also.
Okay.
If scope, time, and cost are three baselines,
Yeah.
and they are very important, they are
Mhm.
planned in such a detail, and they are going to be monitored and controlled in such a detail,
Mhm.
why are they not being done during execution? Why there is
Uh,
no role of scope, time, and cost in execution?
because the work is gonna be done, and then we kind of check to see if it's being done according to the plan,
Mhm.
and then we measure the data, the information against the baseline to see if we are on target or not.
Okay. I suppose you are not understanding my question.
I see.
I am saying
Yeah.
somebody has to do that. The work, somebody has to do
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Somebody has to accomplish the scope, our time, our cost. The money has to
Mm-hmm.
be spent, time has to
Mm-hmm.
be spent,
Yeah.
scope has to be fulfilled. So we are not talking about execution of scope, time, and cost, and we are not telling who is responsible for that. We are
Mm-hmm.
just coming as inspectors only in the last process for controlling it. Actually, which process group or which person is responsible for physical execution of the scope and time and cost?
Um, is the is it um is it when the work is actually being is it in, the implementation, or when the
Execution.
work
Hmm.
sorry, when the work is actually being done,
Hmm.
and then we kind of monitor, control, and then we have the data
Hmm.
which we compare
Hmm.
against the baselines to see if we are on target and so on and so forth.
Hmm. Right. Actually, what I am trying to focus is
Yeah,
who is held responsible for execution of these things?
the project manager and the teams.
Project manager and the team.
Yeah.
And looking at it from the knowledge area perspective,
Mhm.
we can't hold responsible the scope management and schedule management and cost management. Are the people involved in planning these things, are they not responsible for executing those things?
Yes, indeed.
Hmm?
Indeed.
Say again?
Uh, the plan first, and then during the planning phase, and then when all is done, and then we carry out the work
Okay.
uh, in the execution phase, and then as that happens, we
Mhm.
monitor and we control.
They don't happen automatically. People do it.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Are they the same people who planned it?
Uh, yes, yes.
Okay.
The project manager, the teams. Yes, yes.
Okay. Is the Are the people involved in scheduling actually responsible for executing the schedule? The people responsible for scoping actually
Yeah.
responsible for executing the scope, and people responsible for costing actually responsible for executing the cost? That was the question.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. But we don't have a process for that. We don't have this specific mechanism outlined here. Who actually is responsible for physically executing the scope and time and cost? There is no
Mhm.
process given in this process in these knowledge areas.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the missing link which I was mentioning, and that
Yes.
was something did we did talk about.
Hmm.
You see, these three areas are very important: scope, time,
Hmm.
and cost. They are
Hmm.
the baselines, and we are really very much concerned about it. It is interesting.
Hmm.
We are
Hmm.
planning it very thoroughly.
Hmm.
The interesting part of it is actually none of these three areas can be executed in isolation.
Ah.
Therefore, I cannot
Mhm.
ask the scoping team to, to execute the scope
I'm with you.
without having the the time management team to
Mhm.
be actually involved and engaged with it, and the cost
Okay.
management team. So probably the people who are just scheduling are not overall responsible for the execution. The people who are just scoping are not overall responsible for the scope
Mhm.
accomplishment. And similarly, the spending must also be commensurate with what we are actually doing and what we
Mhm.
are actually, what was actually scoped to be done.
Mhm.
Therefore, these three baselines are so very important that the project manager takes on the responsibility of all executions all by himself and his team. Not
Mhm.
only the scheduling team will make any decisions for
Mhm.
execution, not the scoping team will make any decisions for scoping, not the cost team, but all the decisions, once they have been integrated as the final performance baseline, which does include the scope baseline, the schedule baseline, and the cost baseline, it is kind of glued together,
Mhm.
and project management team takes on the responsibility of getting that executed. Now there is a matter whether the execution has been done right or wrong.
Mhm.
That is a very sensitive issue, and we
Mhm.
need those people back in action during the monitoring and control. The specialist in scope management would control the scope of the project. The specialist who designed the schedule, they will be controlling the schedule, and those who establish the cost, they will be controlling. But as far as execution is concerned, it is a centralized responsibility of the project manager and the team responsible
Mhm.
for executing it. That is
Mhm.
exactly why in the field, the people who are actually involved in execution of the project, they are directly the project manager's team.
Mhm.
They may not be the, specialists for creating the schedule
Mhm.
or what. Although I do understand when the planning was being done, they were taken into confidence. Data was collected from them. They were kind of consulted. I agree with all that, but
Mhm.
the responsibility of execution is integrated. It
Mhm.
is not one person's responsibility, it is responsibility of the project manager and the team executing it. That is why in the knowledge area of scope or time or cost, we don't see not only a single process which
Mhm.
deals with execution.
Okay.
Got that? And if you go
Yes,
back
sir.
to what we studied in integration, the very
Mhm.
first knowledge area,
Yes.
there we have got a central responsibility of execution of all the baselines held with the project manager and his team. Therefore, scope has no role, schedule has no role, and control
Mhm.
cost has no role for execution because they cannot be executed in isolation. They have
Mhm.
to be executed in consolidation,
Correct.
right?
Okay.
So that is exactly why we don't have. This was a big question. We probably did talk about that as well in the previous lecture, but that is a big question and an important one that they are created with such a care, with
Mhm.
such a detail, but when it comes to executing these things, they cannot be executed in isolation, and therefore, project manager, after the baseline had been created, takes on the responsibility of scope, time, and cost and their respective execution according to the baseline, the three baselines. As far as controls are concerned, there in monitoring and control, there will be a control for the scope, there would be a control for schedule, and there would be a control for the cost. Specifically, because these are three important things. So these three are the controlling controls, and these controls will check whether these things are behaving according to the baseline.
Mhm.
Now, what about other knowledge areas? There are many other knowledge areas, right?
Mhm.
But you see, why are they not the baselines and why are we not yet talking about them?
The uh, you mean okay? We mean you mean like
Why quality is not a baseline? Why human resource is not a baseline?
uh,
Why we say there are only three baselines: scope, time, and cost.
because let's say for let's say something like communication, we we just kind of how am I gonna say this? We kind of execute the communication. We monitor, and then and that's about it. But
No, no,
these
no.
three, uh,
How do you? Who is responsible for executing the communication?
the project manager, the team.
Project manager. But
Yes.
communication was not a baseline.
No, no, I know. I know. I'm simply saying,
Hmm.
excuse me. I'm simply saying, these are just carried out throughout the project
Hmm.
now, and then for the baseline, we have like some target. We're gonna measure the performance, the data information against.
Okay.
So that's what. Uh-huh.
Let me know. Project manager has a team.
Mhm.
He is responsible for everything. Uh,
Mhm.
some of the things of a, a little lower importance or little different specialization um, maybe outsourced or not really. The word is not right. Maybe
Mhm.
kind of assigned to
Mhm.
various people. Maybe there
Mhm.
is a communication specialist. I ask him, you develop the plan, show it to me, and then throughout the life of the project, you are
Mhm.
responsible for its execution
Mhm.
by keeping me in the loop because I am the project manager. But these three baselines are these cannot be outsourced. They cannot
Yes.
be given to this responsibility cannot be given to someone else.
Yeah.
Project manager has to take on the personal responsibility for the three baselines and ensure that they are executed in together
Mm-hmm.
under with the project team.
Yeah.
Uh, Other areas, there are seven other areas except for the scope, time, and cost.
Mm-hmm.
Integration does have the responsibility over all of them, but their execution would be done by the specialists who are actually dealing with them. For example, while project manager and his team are responsible for actually doing the work of the project,
Mm-hmm.
there is someone, maybe a specialist for communication, who is
Mm-hmm.
always ensuring that he would be communicating through those prescribed reports
Mm-hmm.
accordingly whenever required, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has to just ensure that there is no need for a baseline. If there is anything to be changed in reports, in the
Mm-hmm.
communications, he is allowed to do that until and unless there is no change in scope, time, and cost. If there is any change in scope, time, and cost uh, due to the communication, for example, there is a delay in communication,
Mm-hmm.
and delay in communication may be affecting the scope or something else. If there is any impact on scope, our time,
Mm-hmm.
our cost, only then the communication management plan will be considered for any change, right?
Yeah.
So that means these three baselines are so important that
Mm-hmm.
change is visualized only if they are impacted. And they could be impacted by their own actions or even by the action of any other knowledge area. For example, poor
Mm-hmm.
communication may result in kind of longer schedule, or poor communication might result in maybe change in scope. If there is any impact or effect either on scope, time, or cost, only then the change request is correct.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there is no need for any kind of change request. The basic criteria for change request is that there should be anything, anything affecting the scope, our time, our cost. That is why when we are
Mm-hmm.
in execution, the project manager who has taken up the integrated responsibility of jointly looking after all the actions of scope, time, and cost are not, he's not concerned about communication, procurement, and other areas because
Mm-hmm.
those things are done by other specialists,
I see.
right? Though they are
Yes,
working
sir.
beside with the project manager, naturally under the project manager, but they are specialists in their own areas and they keep,
Mm-hmm.
communicating or whatever they are supposed to be doing around the work of the project.
Mm-hmm.
But if there is an impact on scope, time, or cost due to other areas, that has to be brought into the notice of the project manager. Those baselines must be amended accordingly as
Mm-hmm.
if they can proceed ahead. That means, yes, there could be change in any of the knowledge areas, but if there is a change in scope, our time, our cost, that must be channeled through the project manager. It should be a case for a change request. So, coming back,
Mm-hmm.
uh, during execution,
Mm-hmm.
we don't see any independent process to deal with the execution of schedule, time, scope, time, or cost.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because project manager and his team has integratedly taken on that their responsibility of execution, whereas we do find separate processes at least one process for each of the other knowledge areas.
Yeah.
And the most important knowledge area here, which actually has taken up the responsibility of the baselines, is called integration, the very first
Mhm.
one, right? So,
Yes.
who executes the project baselines? And integration does that. Integration is headed by the project manager and the team which is responsible for executing it, right? So
Mhm.
during execution, quality people come and manage the quality. Procurement, the outsourcing of the job or subletting of the job starts during the execution. If you talk about human resource that is managed during the execution, naturally there must be a HR manager or somebody responsible for that. He can independently work and so on. All other knowledge areas, though they are still under the project manager, but they are kind of delegated to separate people, and we project manager does not bother until any of the baseline scope, time, or cost could be impacted by the actions taken by any delegated responsibility, communication, human resource, procurement, and so on and so forth. Okay, having said that,
Mhm.
we see, because I'm going to explore further into these processes, and before I can go deeper into the process of defining activities, sequencing activities, estimating activity durations, and developing schedule, there is an associated area. You see, when we start talking about estimation, that is the time we must
Mhm.
consider how many types of estimates could be there in our project.
Yeah.
Naturally, one thing is every activity duration has to be estimated.
Mhm.
What do you think? What else need to be estimated? Now, I'm
Uh,
not specifically remaining within the domain of schedule. I'm saying what else can be estimated for
uh,
each activity?
cost,
Cost could be estimated, very good. And what else?
uh, time. No, not the
Time is
time.
the duration.
Schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, schedule. What's the other one?
Third one.
Uh, what was it again? Resources.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So just like we had
Uh,
three baselines, scope, time, and
yeah.
cost, there are
Yeah.
three estimations also.
I see.
That is, naturally, scope is not included in estimation.
Mhm.
Time is time and cost are definitely included.
Mhm.
And the third thing is resources.
Mhm.
Now, resource management becomes a very important task also
Mhm.
after the three baselines.
Yep.
Because these three estimates also interact and impact each other.
Mhm.
If I plan this activity to be done in 3 weeks
Mhm.
and I have got half the resources, it cannot be done in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That means resource is the first thing which is going to impact my duration or my scope. So it is touching my baseline very closely. Therefore, if I talk about three estimates, then
Mhm.
naturally time and cost are already covered in it. Scope is not
Mhm.
a real calculation. Time and
Mhm.
cost are very closely tied. But the
Mhm.
third thing from outside, from other knowledge area, which is actually impacting them directly, is the resource estimation. That means these three estimates must be unified.
Mhm.
They must be considered when we are calculating resources. I must consider the duration. I must consider the scope, right?
Mhm.
So there is a relation between all these three types of estimates. But remember, this is not the triple constraint. This is not. These are not the baselines. Baseline is a
Mhm.
separate concept, and estimation, different types of estimations are separate
Mhm.
concept. But
Mhm.
these two things overlap,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. That means you have clearly seen that these estimates impact each other, and therefore
Mhm.
resource becomes important to us. In addition to the three baselines, the fourth important thing probably could be
Mhm.
considered as a resource. But at the same time, let us look back at the three constraints, scope, time, and
Okay.
cost, and you will
Mhm.
visualize we have missed out another important thing, which could be a very good candidate for the baseline. If there would be a fourth baseline, what could that be?
Would say results.
Resource, well, let me consider that. Yes, it is important, but let me
Yeah.
consider that at the fifth step. There is
Okay.
another thing which is really very important. Whatever we do in scope, time, and cost, we
Yeah.
do take care of that thing.
Scope, time, and costs. Scope, time, costs. Okay.
It can very closely be considered as an objective because that impacts the scope and time and cost directly.
Okay. Let's say risk.
Okay, risk is, yeah, it is right, but it is not as important as that thing. I
Okay.
will treat risk as at equal importance with the resource or something.
Okay.
But
So,
yes, risks
uh,
are important, very important.
okay. What do we have?
Just
Baseline.
think from the perspective of scope, time, and quality.
Oh, quality.
This
No?
quality, scope, time, and cost, and the fourth one is quality. But the
I'm with
problem
you.
with quality is not explicitly measurable.
Mm,
Therefore, it is not the baseline. Otherwise, it does have all the qualifications to be called the fourth objective. And in all
um,
books of project management, it is normally mentioned as a fourth objective.
I see.
But because it is not classically the a baseline, so what
Mm,
we say, we call it kind of all these things which are more important and more
mhm.
impacting, we call them the scope, sorry, we call them the project constraints.
Yes, sir.
So we have got scope, scope is considered as a project constraint,
Yeah.
schedule is considered as a project constraint, cost
Mm,
is considered, quality is considered, risk is
okay.
considered, and what was that? Resources are considered.
Mhm.
And there can even be more. But I am not trying to say that every knowledge area is a constraint.
Mhm.
It could be a constraint, but the largest ones of them all are these five or seven areas which are
Mm,
always the constraint. Because there could be a communication constraint. There
yeah.
could be. So now you understand the what is a baseline, what are the baselines, scope, time, and cost,
Mm,
what are the estimations, their
mhm.
time, cost, and resources,
Results. Yeah.
and what are the next important things for beyond the scope, time, and cost, the baseline. They are
Quality.
they are quality. Uh,
Mhm.
they are called constraints. They
Yes,
are,
sir.
in addition to scope, time, and cost, we have got
Mm,
quality, we have got risk, we have got
mm.
other things, right?
Okay.
In the order
Mhm.
of priority.
Okay.
Anyways, we have given a lot of time to this discussion, but I suppose that this discussion must have given you some clarity of
Very,
thought.
very useful. Very useful, sir. Thank
Exactly.
you.
Now
Okay.
let us get dive deeper into these processes of planning,
Okay. Mhm.
rather all of them for that matter. So
Okay.
first, let's talk about the schedule management. Project schedule management is the very first step of planning as far as a schedule is concerned, but it does not mean that we are diving deeper into each activity and trying to calculate the duration for each activity in the project. But here we are setting the rules. Before we could dive deeper and start identifying various activities and assigning them various durations, we are setting the rules of the game. What should be considerable, big enough to be called an activity?
Mhm.
There might be things which we ignore them. We don't. consider them an activity. So the rule of the game is, for example, in your project, anything which is taking more than, say, 1 day to do is considered an activity. I don't know. I'm not saying that this is the rule for your project. You can establish your own rules that activity is something considerable and should at least take 1 day or 2 day or 3 days to complete. If something can be done in 5 minutes, that will not be considered an activity, right? So
I see.
basically, before even identifying the activities, we should set the rules of the game. And these rules
Mhm.
of the game are about everything in scheduling. For example, going back to the previous slide, for
Mhm.
defining the activities, the rules of game for this, the rules of game for establishing various kinds of relationships amongst these activities, the rules of game for establishing the estimate for each activity duration, developing the schedule, all of these four things, or even controlling the schedule, they all are somehow discussed and written down. The principles are written down in the schedule management plan during
Mhm.
6.1 plan schedule management process.
Mhm.
Got that?
Yes, sir.
Once that baseline, sorry, it is not the baseline, it is the plan.
Mhm. Mhm.
Once the schedule management plan has been created, then we can further expand on it for defining,
Activity.
sequencing, estimating,
Mhm.
developing the schedule, that is planning part. Once the schedule has been developed, it will be baseline, and then we will be concerned about how to control the schedule, and that also comes out of the schedule management plan. So far, so good.
So far, so good. Yes, sir.
One
Yes.
important thing here is called the governance. Did we talk about governance earlier?
No, no, yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
But we did talk
What do
about
you?
the charter,
Mhm.
and then I mean the first activities in integration. So not
Right,
yet for
right.
the good. Yeah.
Okay. That is also an interesting topic, and I must give
Mhm.
you a hint about it.
Okay.
What do you think is governance when you are doing the project management? What, or
Uh,
for that, we just forget about project management. Let's tell
okay.
me what is governance as compared to management?
Governance would be um, the rules,
Hmm.
um, basically sharing authority, who has the power, the authority to do what,
Very
under
good.
what circumstances. So something like that.
Does it happen within the project?
I mean, yes, yes. Basically, uh, how do we possibly, an example would be, let's say, escalate an issue when it comes to
Hmm.
risk.
Escalate to what level?
Exactly. So basically,
To
from
next higher level, right?
that's right.
Now, who set up those rules? This
Oh,
must not be the project manager. Project manager is concerned about what is happening within the project. He is
correct,
the manager. He is the
correct,
manager.
correct.
But to manage his things, he
Yeah,
must have been given certain governance from higher ups.
correct. So
Governance
the
always comes
organization,
from top.
correct. The
Management,
organization will have
if I
sorry.
am the project manager, I
Mhm.
am responsible for abiding by the instructions given to me in the governance and
Correct.
create my own detailed project management plan, right?
Mhm. Mm. Yes,
That means there was a project governance created by the boss of the project manager or
correct.
the people sitting in strategy, and they
Mhm.
had given us, okay, we are assigning you this project. You must keep these things in mind. These are the
Mhm.
rules of the game we are giving
Mm.
you. Now,
Yeah.
those rules of the game given in governance by the higher management to the
Mhm.
project manager may not be very detailed,
Correct.
right? They may be,
Yeah.
you must not delay things, you must keep that in this range, and things like that, the high level instructions, right?
Mhm.
This is
Mhm.
not micromanagement. They let the project manager make his or her own decisions,
Mhm.
remaining within those governance guidelines. That is exactly why we develop a management plan. Whether
Mhm.
it is the overall project management plan, it is the schedule management plan, it is a cost management plan,
Mhm.
whatever, we have got 10 different management plans
Mhm.
within the project. Actually, they are germinating out of the project governance
Yes,
given
sir.
by the sponsors to the
Mhm.
project manager,
Right.
right?
Yes, sir.
And why we recommend that the governance should be there and the detailed planning should be the responsibility of project manager,
Mhm.
because the effective way of doing anything, of managing anything, is that the higher level, the sponsor, should not micromanage. They should be confident enough that they have selected a competent project manager who knows and who can do his job. And
Mhm.
we have given him the governance instruction, and now we can sit back and relax. And this is a specialist who will manage his team, who will get everything done. But
Yes.
at the same time, some kind of mechanism at a macro level
Mhm.
should be there, as if they know what is happening in the project.
Yes, sir.
So they won't be watching over the shoulder all the time
Mhm.
and giving instructions that would be micromanagement and that will hinder the progress of the project. They would rather be establishing the rule of the game that
Mhm.
okay, we want these KPIs to be met. We want to see these reports and returns. So this is macro level
Mhm.
management, not the micro level management. So that is the difference between governance and management.
Mhm.
Management is created by the project manager,
Mhm.
and it is further description of the governance which was given to him.
Mhm.
Governance is created by your bosses, your sponsors, right? And that
Yes,
is
sir.
never very detailed.
Mhm.
Okay, so I think we have clarified a lot many things.
Mhm.
That means whenever we are developing any of the management plans, we must
Yes.
always look back to the governance guidelines in that area.
Mhm.
And we are bound to remain within those boundaries, although
Yes.
those boundaries are not explicitly defined in a very clear form. But
Mhm.
as for the purposes of my project, I will put some figures around it, right? If, for example, they have said that schedule should not get delayed more than 5 days. Now,
Mhm.
I would further translate it. It cannot be every activity can get delayed up to 5 days. I would
Mhm.
put the figure, and any activity which is less than 2 days cannot get delayed more than 1 day or something like
Mhm.
that. This is my detailed planning. This is happening within these rules are set in
Mhm.
the respective management plan,
Mhm.
whether it is a schedule management plan, scope management plan, or cost management plan, or any other management plan. We have got 10 different management plans
Mhm.
within the project management plan.
Okay.
Project management plan is the parent plan, and all management plans
Mhm.
are actually making it up. And basically, why did we create a project management plan? Just to translate and make it bear open the governance mechanism, how
Mhm.
governance mechanism will be implemented. This is my project management plan, and my project
Mhm.
management plan does include separate management plans for scope, for time, for cost, for this. But the
Mhm.
whole integration area is the
Mhm.
sum of all.
Mhm.
Integration is the called the project management plan, and
Mhm.
rest 10 knowledge areas are part of it. 10 management plans are part of it.
Mhm.
Anyways, sorry I've explained it too much.
It's good, sir. So very useful. Thank you for that.
Now, let us visit back.
Mhm.
We created a scope in the previous chapter.
Yeah.
Once we created the scope, what was the last level we dug down to? before we
Uh,
could baseline it.
the work breakdown structure.
Very good. And in the work breakdown structure, what
Mhm.
was the smallest unit?
Activities.
Are you sure about it?
No, work packages. Sorry,
Work
work packages.
packages. Very
Yeah,
nice.
sorry.
Very nice. So that means when we are developing the scope, we don't
Mm,
need to go down to the very minutest details,
yeah,
just like it is kind of just like we have shown you the difference between governance and management.
yeah.
Similarly, scope and detail, further details, there is a difference. Scope doesn't go into the minutest of the details.
Mhm,
Scope breaks it down to such a level which is
mhm.
now comfortable for further estimation,
Yes, sir.
right?
Mhm,
So, although we had developed a scope and a baseline, sorry,
mhm,
a scope baseline, but our breakdown was work breakdown structure, and that
mhm,
smallest level was a work package. We said at that point in time,
mhm.
a work package can be further broken down into activities.
Yeah.
But we are not concerned about breaking it down to that level and
Mhm,
when we are establishing the scope, because that is not our concern.
mhm.
As a project manager, I am concerned about the each of the work packages.
Yes, sir.
There might be smaller, minute details which could
Mhm,
be done by the physical workers, but I am not really concerned about it. For example, I have got a huge building to construct,
mhm,
and maybe one unit, one compartment or one room could be considered the smallest unit of interest for the project manager for the purposes of monitoring the progress of the construction.
mhm.
But if I start monitoring the small little activity, how a brick is being laid, is it being laid
Mhm,
right or wrong,
mhm,
that is
mhm.
beyond the project manager's interest.
Yes, sir.
Yes, the person supervising that room may be interested in breaking down all the activities happening within that room into
Mhm,
and managing them accordingly. But again,
mhm,
it is the same principle, no macro level and micro level. The project manager's level is a macro level where he
mhm,
goes down to the WBS limit and
mhm,
doesn't, until and unless it is a very sensitive project, it doesn't go
mhm,
down even below. But once that scope has been established,
mhm,
now we are in developing the schedule. For the purposes of developing the schedule, we have to break the each one of the work packages further down to the activity level, because
mhm.
when it comes to actually doing something, we must know exactly what all is to be done
Yeah.
in further details. The work packages is not sufficient for the detailed breakdown and description of each activity. That is where define activities comes into play. And I must be comprehensive when I am trying to define activities,
Mhm,
as if whatever that work package I am addressing right here, actually these activities which I have created, I have thought of, they
mhm,
completely encompass the whole work package. There cannot be any other activity which could be added to complete the work package,
mhm,
right? It means
mhm,
it should be comprehensive, it should be
mhm,
complete representation of each work package, and also it should not be more than what the WBS is asking for. You
mhm,
can't add any redundant activities in in a work package which
mhm,
were not there, which does not fulfill the scope or which exceeds the scope of that
mhm.
item. for that work package. So we can't exceed the work package. We can't fall short of the work package. Therefore, we must define activities to that level of detail, right? Okay, good enough. That is defining the activities. Once we have now, when we were defining the activities, as I said, all the work and only the work, right? All the
Yes,
work
sir.
necessary to be completed in that work package must be identified as activities, and anything which does not support that work should not be included in the activities. No extra work. All the work and only the work, right?
Yes, sir.
And once I've been identifying these activities, right now I'm not considering if they are related, if they are done in a sequence or something, but I just put up a huge list of activities which could be done, which could or should be completed as part of that work package. This is defining. Then, once I have the comprehensive list of all the activities, now I start looking at it like a jigsaw puzzle and I am trying to fit and sequence them. What is to be done first and what is to be done later? What is dependent on whom? And what is the sequence of activities that could be created? Remember, first define and then sequence.
Sequence.
Okay, we'll talk more about sequencing in detail, but you understand that some things cannot be done until some other activities are completed. So that kind of relationships we will talk on with more detail.
Yeah.
Once that definition of the activities and the sequencing of the activities, all activities I am talking about, all activities of the project have been done, we can then start at estimating the duration of each activity.
Yeah.
How much time this activity will take, how much time this activity will take. But remember, this is an initiation point for
Mm-hmm.
other two kinds of estimations also. As soon as we start estimating the duration of an activity, we must start estimation of the resources required
Yes.
and the
Mhm.
cost estimations. They are all associated with each other.
So.
If the duration, if the resources are not available
Mhm.
in the expected strength, for example, I need 10 people to do this job, I have only five. The duration will be impacted.
Mhm.
Previously, I thought it can be done in 10 days, but with half the resources, it may take 20 days.
Mhm.
So all these three estimates will be somehow impacting each other. So they must be created in some parallel
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
But even if I don't have a resource estimate at this point in time, I will make an approximation of the duration, which later will have to be affected and
Mhm.
corrected when the resources and costs are known, right? So
Yes, sir.
although in this knowledge area we are only concerned about the activity duration, but remember
Mhm.
there are two other estimates which are going to impact it. And these
Mhm.
three types of estimates would be making a lot of effect on each other.
Mhm.
We'll talk about their effects later. But
Mhm.
anyways, from the perspective of the schedule management, once I have defined the activities and sequenced these activities and
Mhm.
estimated the duration of each activity, uh, I think I have everything in place to put it
Mhm.
all together.
Mhm.
Now I need to put it all together into a schedule,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Once I convert it into a schedule, please don't expect that this is now it can be executed. No, this is for the very first time you have put the things together and it has taken a shape of a schedule, which is like a bar chart. But
Mhm.
it might not be the version on which you want to. start the execution because there are a lot of assumptions you have taken. Like I will be having 10 resources available for doing this job,
Mhm.
and I don't know what is going to be impacting. There are a lot many things which are kind of uncertain.
Mhm.
So I will review and review and review it time and again, even during
Mhm.
the planning, and
Mhm.
try to conceive as match perfection into it. So the schedule I have developed might go through many revisions before as a schedule manager, I am confident that this is something which I personally think that there is nothing else to be considered and this is doable format. That is the time I present my schedule to the higher management, to the project manager for converting it into a baseline. That, and please trust me, if it is a sensitive project, you might
Mhm.
have, before getting the baseline, you might have to revise your schedule and adjust your schedule maybe more than 100 times. But once it has been approved by your boss, once the baseline has been created, you as a project manager or schedule manager or anyone, you have absolutely no authority to make any further changes into the schedule any longer. That means you have to take this schedule into execution and do exactly according actions exactly according to the schedule,
Mhm.
right? This is
Yes, sir.
planning is complete and now you
Mhm.
are in execution. Execution is not mentioned here. In the six processes of schedule, we just have control.
Mhm.
As I told you, control is when you start receiving the reports, what is happened, what has happened, and what is
Mhm.
properly tied and what is not tied, and then we have to apply adjustments, make adjustments, controls, etc. But who is actually, you know, executing the work of the schedule? That is the project management team,
Mhm.
and the team of specialists who are actually the experts of the schedule,
Mhm.
they are watching in monitoring and control,
Mhm.
and they're watching whatever has happened is happening during execution and whether it is right or wrong and what is going to be the impact of this. They keep a close eye on that and
Mhm.
they then suggest if something is not according to um, the plan or the baseline,
Mhm.
and it may have to be corrected because the baseline which we are following is no more going to yield the same result which we expected. So these specialists of schedule sitting in control will keep monitoring and keep suggesting amendments and updates to the management plan. But
Mhm.
that does not mean that they have suggested something and it can just be implemented. No, because the schedule had been baselined by the higher management,
Mhm.
every change must go through them. If they agree, only then they will unfreeze the schedule. They will
Mhm.
allow the baseline to be unfrozen
Mhm.
and they will allow you to make suggest changes. What can be done? What can be done to improve the schedule, and an updated final format of the schedule will again be presented to the higher management who will then re-baseline it, right? So it is kind
Yes, sir.
of you
Mhm.
were working on a baseline version and you felt that there are something things are not happening as they should.
Mhm.
Circumstances have changed, maybe any factor, and you asked for a change request. That change request was considered and approved.
Mhm.
But before they could approve, they would expect you to suggest what is the alternative,
Yes, sir.
right? So you
Yeah.
suggested, say, five different alternatives. They
Mhm.
picked the best one out of them and they approved your change request.
Yes.
Now, according to the newly approved change request, your baseline will have to be refrozen.
Mm.
So you have to re-baseline it before you
Mhm.
could start actions. So the old baseline you will forget and record in the archive, and the new
Mhm.
baseline from this point onwards would be the parameter for controlling the schedule. Got that?
Yes, sir.
So I have explained generally the whole of the
Mhm.
process of scheduling, and actually that is exactly what is happening with the scope, and that is exactly what is happening with the cost.
Mhm.
But not to that level of rigor, because it is only in schedule that even before the baseline, first baseline has happened, it goes through many revisions. The schedule may go through hundreds of revisions
Mhm.
before the baseline, first baseline is established. But the cost may not go through hundreds of revisions. It could be go through four or five revisions.
Mhm.
The scope may also not have that many detailed revisions.
Mhm.
I mean, the first baseline we established, the most complicated of them all is the schedule baseline because it is like uncertainty. It can go through even before baseline many
Mhm.
possibilities, many versions by which the project could be done, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, these things will be clarified subsequently.
Okay. Mhm.
Anyways, this all this discussion was just setting the ground for you to understand
Okay,
the
sir.
schedule management. So
Thank
now
you.
that you understand a lot many things, let us see what is the definition of schedule management, project schedule
Mhm.
management. You see, there were six processes
Mhm.
in the previous slide.
Yeah.
These six processes, all of these six processes are how they are to be done. That is written down in the schedule management plan.
Mhm.
So it includes the processes required to manage the timely completion of the project. I think that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Mhm.
And these are the six processes, and I have probably already discussed each one of them with you,
Mhm.
but let us see in the formal language of the standard what do they mean.
Mhm.
First one, the plan schedule management means this is the process of establishing the policies, procedures, and documentation for planning the schedule, developing the schedule, managing the schedule,
Mhm.
executing the schedule, and controlling the schedule. All this is written down here. One thing which I told you,
Mhm.
these are the detailed instructions. What are they based on?
The governance of the company.
On the governance. And the
Mhm.
governance was a generic guideline for the
Yeah.
whole project, but
Mhm.
basically, some of those instructions in the governance might
Mhm.
be about scheduling, some would be about costing, some would be
Mhm.
about. So, the relevant governance instructions might have been translated here into
Mhm.
policies, procedures, and documentation for
Mhm.
planning, developing, managing, executing, controlling project schedule.
That's right.
But you see, plan schedule management covers all of the subsequent processes. It is
Mhm.
the overall guideline for everything. But then, once the rules have been established, then
Mhm.
we take them one by one, and every process has got its own responsibility and its own definition. Define activities, as I explained, this is the
Mhm.
process of identifying, and documenting the specific actions to be performed to produce the project deliverables. Meaning, what all has to be done,
Mhm.
every activity must be defined. And I said, you can't add anything more than the scope. You
Mhm.
can't subtract anything. It should be just enough to do the job. Why? Because schedule cannot exceed the scope.
Mhm.
It should be within the scope. Then, once you have identified these activities,
Mhm.
now what is to be done in what sequence? What comes first? What comes
Mhm.
later? So, this process is for identifying and documenting relationships amongst the project activities. We'll talk more about
Mhm.
them. Then, once the sequence has also been established, that is a good time when you can start estimating the duration of the activities. Now, remember the word estimate, what does it mean? It is kind of your best guess how much
Mhm.
time this activity will take.
Mhm.
So, estimate is not a perfection,
Correct.
right? Estimate
Mhm.
is an estimate. Now, it all depends. There are many types of estimate. Some are
Mhm.
very sketchy, some are quite close to perfection. But when you use the word estimate, that means there is an element of doubt. This is just uh, what I think, but actually, how
Mhm.
much time it will take, God knows better.
Mhm.
That would only be known when that activity would have occurred. So I would know, oh, this activity I thought could be done in 10 days, it took 15 days.
Mhm.
So estimate is our best guess. The process
Right.
of estimating the number of work periods needed to complete individual activities with the estimated resources. Now, the interesting part is
Mhm.
the definition of a work period would be given in the plan schedule management. Your schedule management plan must tell you how are you going to measure in
Right. Right.
days, in hours,
Mhm.
in seconds, or in months. So, this work period decision once has been made, we can allocate those work periods to each activity.
Mhm.
Now, once these three things are done,
Mhm.
all activities have been defined, all activities have been sequenced, and all activity durations have been estimated. Now is the time that we can put it all together in shape of a schedule or what you call it a Gantt chart.
Mhm.
So, process of analyzing activity sequences, durations, resource requirements. You see, to develop a schedule, we also need the resource
Mhm.
estimate,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That is also required. Resource requirements and schedule constraints to create project schedule model. Now, this is interesting to note that the shape the schedule is going to take
Mhm.
is called a schedule model. This is the first time when schedule is going to take a shape of a Gantt chart. Remember?
Mhm. Mhm.
But this we are not confident about because this is just the first shape. If any factor in our calculation changes,
Mhm.
this model is going to flex and take another shape. For example, when we calculated the resources, we found we are not having that many resources. So of our schedule would be inflated. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
So the model will change from the first version to the second version. And
Mhm.
that way, maybe you find we don't have enough money.
Yeah.
And to adjust to that, we have another model. So basically, the very first model it forms is called the project scheduling model.
Mhm.
And all subsequent models, it takes shape even before the baseline could be created. So far, I'm not talking about baseline. I'm talking about small little adjustments in the schedule. And the shape of the schedule is being continuously changing.
Mhm.
Every change, a new schedule shape emerges out of it. That I'm calling various instances of project schedule model. First one
Mhm.
was the original project schedule
Mhm.
model. Then it
Mhm.
was refined and refined. It went
Mhm.
through many instances until we were confident that there are no further items affecting our schedule, and this is
Mhm.
now in a doable form. That is when you present it to your bosses as if it can be baseline. So, do you understand the concept
Mhm.
of project schedule model that
Yes,
once
sir.
the first shape takes a form,
Mhm.
then it may go through many modulations until a firm schedule is gained, and that is where the baseline is created. So,
Mhm.
for sensitive projects, I easily can foresee hundreds of instances which could happen before the baseline.
Mhm.
And you see, this is because of the changing, effect of several things on the schedule. But once we baseline, we promise that this is exactly how we will execute it.
Mhm.
And once we execute it, we can control the schedule accordingly. But
Mhm.
anyways, let me read out the definition of developed schedule. This is the process of analyzing activity sequences, durations, resource requirements, all of them put together, and even the schedule constraints to
Mhm.
create the schedule model. Model. The first shape is model,
Mhm.
and every subsequent shape is an instance of that model. Instance 1, instance 2, instance 3, until we are comfortable, and that is when we get a baseline approved.
Mhm.
But after the baseline approval, we have absolutely no authority to make any changes to that. We
Mhm.
have to just act upon that.
Mhm.
This is good for project execution and for monitoring and control.
Mhm.
And naturally, for execution, because project team is just executing, so there is no problem in it. But what we are concerned about is if there are any changes to the baseline, that we are to be watching from monitoring and control. So we have a process by the name of control schedule, which is the process of monitoring
Mhm.
the status of the project to update the project schedule and make changes to the schedule baseline. Now, there could be any reason. It is not necessarily uh, due to something going wrong with the schedule.
Mhm.
Maybe it is due to the cost. Maybe it is due to any other knowledge area.
Mhm.
There might be an impact on the duration of the project.
Mhm.
That impact is basically analyzed by these specialists sitting in the control schedule. They analyze whatever is going to impact the schedule. It can the impact this thing is coming e- even from within the schedule or from any other knowledge area. But
Mhm.
if there is any effect on the chain, on the duration of any activity, right? So we will have to make amendments.
Mhm.
The process of monitoring the status of the project and updating the schedule and making request changes, if they do the analysis and they understand that this change is necessary, it must
Mhm.
be inducted into the plan, they would decide to approve the change by unfreezing the baseline and allowing the project manager and his team to re-baseline it. I mean, to recalculate things. And then again, as soon as they unfreeze it, it
Mhm.
again starts like a jelly. It again, starts increasing and again decreasing. Like, we had various instances. At this moment, again, new instances start coming, maybe hundreds of them, until
Mhm.
we restabilize the schedule
Mhm.
and we recommend a new rebaseline.
Mhm.
That is where it can be frozen again.
Mhm.
And this thing can happen many times during the life of a project.
Yep.
So we are clear about six processes
Yes, sir.
and their definitions.
Thank you, sir.
I think this is exactly the same statements which I have just shown
Mhm.
you.
Okay.
Plan, schedule management, define activities, sequence activities, estimate activity durations, develop schedule and control. Six processes.
Mhm.
Uh, Big picture, what
Yeah.
these six processes are,
Okay.
what are the inputs into each one of these activities, what are the tools you could use in each one of these processes, and what
Mhm.
are the outputs. Now, this is interesting that we
Mhm.
are so thorough that we, as a project manager, already know what inputs we expect to do the work of that process and how do we do it, what are the various tools and techniques available. So these are
Yes.
kind of skills you should be available for doing that job, and what are you supposed to create out of it.
Mhm.
Uh, we'll talk in detail later, but let me quickly go through
Yes,
it.
sir.
Let
Yeah.
us talk about the plan schedule management, where you set the rules of the game as far as scheduling is concerned.
Okay.
That is in the schedule management plan.
Mhm.
And it is in accordance with the requisite governance standard. Whatever the requisite governance is, which is provided by the governing body,
Mhm.
this management plan is going to comply with that.
Mhm.
Okay, what do we need for developing a schedule management? We need to have a proper authorization to start the project, which is called the project charter.
Mhm.
We need to have a project management plan in place, either in working or in completed form. But you would say this schedule management plan is also part of the project management plan. So, how can
Correct.
it be complete?
Yeah.
So, in whatever level of detail it is available, we need to have that information because that gives us the instructions how to plan, right? So, I
Yes,
need to
sir.
consult the project management plan for developing my schedule management plan. Then we have got two other inputs. One is called the enterprise environmental factors, and other is
Mhm.
called the organizational process assets.
Mhm.
We'll talk about these also, but generally speaking, enterprise environmental factors are those internal or external factors which could impact the project.
Mhm.
They are not necessarily some kind of laws or the documentation.
Mhm.
This could be conditions which occur around you from inside of the organization or
Mhm.
outside of the organization. They might be extreme temperatures, weather, environment,
Mhm.
laws of the land, laws of the organization, culture
Mhm.
of the organization. So they could be internal or external to the organization. These are called enterprise environmental factors. Then organizational process assets are only always internal. These are the internal policies and procedures within our organization for doing this project. This could include the books of rules,
Mhm.
policies, procedures, or
Mhm.
even older files are lessons learned or archival data from previous projects. They all are considered organizational process assets.
Mhm.
Based on that, you are using these four inputs. What are you supposed to use as a tool or technique? You should use your expert judgment, your
Yeah.
experience, or the
Mhm.
experience of your team, or maybe of the subject matter experts
Mhm.
in developing a comprehensive schedule management plan. You also can do data analysis. You can have meetings with your
Mhm.
experts to come up with this schedule management plan.
Yeah.
Now, you see how interesting each box is.
Yeah.
Each box, we have certain tools, and if you want to become a good schedule manager,
Mhm.
these are the tools, these tools in each one of these. You should be expert in these areas.
Mhm.
Got it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
These are the tools and these are the expectations. The outputs are the expectations what you are supposed to be producing. These are the inputs you are supposed to be getting,
Mhm.
right? So this
Yeah.
is something you must be doing.
Mhm.
Do I need to go through each one of them or should we proceed ahead?
I could, it's up to you basically, but I could read the PM, the reference
Yeah.
in the book. So, I mean, as you see fit, it's okay. I'm good.
So what we can do is we can
Mhm.
take a break here. I
Okay.
need to say my prayers. I need about 25 minutes. So we
Okay.
take the break. I leave the screen on and you
Okay.
can, if you like, you just read through it or you can take a break, have some tea or something. We meet after
Okay, sir.
25 minutes, right?
No problem, sir.
Most welcome.
Thank you.
Most welcome.
Okay. Let's see.